right there. Yep. Hmm. Okay. And yes, we are live. All right, folks, we are live in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. A lot happening on this Thursday. My goodness. It's not your imagination. It is like one thing after another right now. But that's all good. All good. And nice job. Warwick police caught that bank robbing suspect with the help of both Cranston and Providence police. So there's that. Okay. Okay. There we go. Yep. Gonna go there. Okay. Okay. And folks, we are going to be live now in just 1 minute. 1 minute out. And we will begin. Here we go. All right, folks, we're going to start momentarily now. Going to be joined by Stephanie Murphy, Marin Barrett, and Murphy. Remember, criminal defense attorneys, 50 years combined criminal defense experience in Rhode Island. Call them at 401 228 8271. And again, we're going to wait for our cue from JR, and then we'll bring you up to speed and begin the real news, where we'll be live now from 1 to 2 on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, folks, remember, you can always then listen online at the website, dpetro.com. And we're also obviously going to be live just a moment on both not both, Facebook, X, and YouTube. So, and more. And there it is, folks, at 106. Good afternoon. This is the real news. And as I was saying, on this Thursday, we are live right now, AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, you can always listen online at our website, depetro.com, but you can watch us live each weekday, 1 to 2. This is the beginning of the hour on our Facebook page, John DePetro Show, but also on YouTube and X. And every Thursday now, we have been incorporating a legal segment, gotten great feedback on it. And right now, joining us from Marin, Barrett, and Murphy, team of criminal defense attorneys, folks, 50 years combined Rhode Island criminal defense experience. Remember, your fight becomes their fight. You can contact them. Look for them on Facebook and Instagram. You can call them at 401 228 8271. 401 228 8271. Marin, Barrett, and Murphy Law Firm. And joining us right now, as she has been doing on Thursdays from that very firm, is in fact attorney Stephanie Murphy. Good afternoon, Stephanie.
Good afternoon, John.
Stephanie, I want to start off. Channel 12 had an interesting story this week that they focused on. And that was, and this is something that I've ridden with police and they pull people over on. And then at the same time, sometimes we've been out and then someone's involved with a traffic stop. And it has to do with the tint of the windows. And it seems to be a little bit of a legal challenge for a lot of motorists because seemingly how windows are tinted seems to vary state to state.
Absolutely. So yeah, in Rhode Island in the last 3 years, there's been over 7,500 tint violations that's been filed, mainly by the state police, but with other towns too. So typically, there's a 70% allowance of light that's allowed on different tints and windows and stuff like that. There's some different exceptions, some medical exceptions and stuff like that. But in terms of knowing what your tint is, knowing if it's, falls within the guidelines of Rhode Island is different from other neighboring states. It is kind of similar to the federal guidelines, but it is a lot stricter than some of the other states. So also with this law, what's interesting is this vehicle's registered in Rhode Island. So, what happens with a vehicle from a different state, registered in a different state that comes up to Rhode Island. So there's a bunch of different just different facts about the law that's interesting, but the number of tickets have dramatically gone up in the last 3 years.
What happens when someone, we're so close to Massachusetts, Stephanie, and Connecticut, people are frequently going over the border. Some people go in and over the border each day. What should a motorist do if in fact they're pulled over in something like this?
So in terms of one of the easiest things to do, even if you have tinted windows that are allowed, like in the state of Florida or some of the hotter states down south, just to keep yourself out of trouble, roll down your window and stuff like that. If you have darker tint windows that wouldn't be allowed in Rhode Island, roll down the windows at the time of a traffic stop. That just kind of de-escalates the situation if the cops are worried about what's behind the window. So that would be my first advice is if you do have darker tinted windows from another state, roll down your windows and just let the cops see exactly what's going on. I think that would be a safety measure that everyone could take. But in terms of having darker tint from another state, driving Rhode Island, if you do get a ticket, I do think one of the defenses would absolutely be that your car is registered in another state, that tint is legal in that state, and you could try to get around that $250 ticket.
Folks, again, we're speaking with attorney Stephanie Murphy. Now, Stephanie, we had discussed this, but Representative Enrique Sanchez, he has returned to the State House. He did a pretty extensive interview with reporters where he was kind of repeating a lot of the same thing, but he is now claiming, and that was a pretty high-profile DUI. I would argue right now it's the highest profile DUI so far of this year, but he's now saying he wasn't drinking, possibly was medication. Cranston police on their body cam footage as they're talking to him, saying that they thought they had an odor of alcohol, but they claim that he had admitted to them that he had been drinking. What are we to make of his comments now to the media?
Well, he's definitely commenting that he wasn't drinking and taking prescription medication. I think the body cam and the statements by the police and everything may contradict that with the smell of alcohol. But what's interesting in Rhode Island is if you get pulled over and arrested for a DUI, if you fail to take or refuse a chemical test like he did, that's a whole separate charge in traffic court, which is a civil charge. So he's under an obligation under, the implied consent law in Rhode Island to consent to a chemical test. And here he declined it, which is kind of surprising. If you're not drinking, why you would decline a breath test. You can be found guilty of driving under the influence or a refusal charge for being under the influence or unsafe to operate under prescriptions, over-the-counter medication, drugs, or alcohol. So the DUI law does cover, any Adderall, any prescription medication. If you're unsafe to operate, even with prescription medication, you can still be found to be under the influence.
I want to go back to Stephanie. That night, it seems he could have been within his right. And I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback or second guess, but people should know he could have been within his right to decline to answer whether or not he had in fact been drinking, and even now returning to the State House. And I get it. The television cameras are there. They're putting the cameras on him. But he would also, I believe, be within his right to say, right now it's a legal situation. As a result of that, I'd prefer not to discuss it right now. We're going to handle that. He doesn't have to answer when the police said, "Were you drinking tonight?" I mean, you tell me. I don't think he had the answer, and I also don't think at the state house he needs to even go down the road of saying, "Oh no, I was on medication, and that's why that happened in that manner."
Yeah, no, I mean, with the police, you absolutely don't have to answer questions like that, especially if they're going to incriminate yourself. You have a constitutional right not to, in all honesty. In terms of giving your name, address, and stuff, those are things you do have to, talk about or answer those questions. But in terms of answering questions about whether or not you're drinking, answering questions about whether or not you're taking prescription medication, like I said, admitting prescription medication, but falling asleep at a green light, that could definitely be in the judge's eyes unfit to operate, in all honesty. But he's not required to answer those questions. He's not required to do field sobriety tests. I always tell my clients, be polite, be courteous, be truthful to the officers, but you don't have to offer information. You can politely say, no, thank you. I wanted to talk to my attorney. And even at the state house, if he was my client, I would have recommended him, hey, blame it on me. Say that there's a pending legal action. Everyone knows about it. And my attorneys told me not to talk about it, but I don't think he's going down that road. But that would be my advice for any potential clients or any clients that I have.
I think you should be listening to that. Now, Stephanie Murphy, also, this is an interesting story, NBCI team. Some violent inmates at the ACI get earlier shot at release in wake of a court ruling. They mentioned the Jean Quiddy case out of Cranston. But what is this all about where they're essentially saying they have not been interpreting the parole, I believe, guidelines that had been set up?
Well, what this really comes down to is like the Mario's Law and stuff like that. That's for kind of youthful offenders that get sentenced to violent crimes before the age of 22. So kind of the thought process behind passing that legislation was to allow people who are under the age of 22, when they might not have the maturity and the sense and the intelligence in order to maybe not get themselves involved with some serious crimes. So that law kind of allows them to get go before the parole board at an earlier time. It doesn't mean that the parole board will release them, but what it does is shorten different times to, 20 years. If it's life sentence, you can see the parole board at 20 years. It makes it a little bit shorter for them to see the parole board, but the parole boards can't, what they were doing before is saying you had to parole from one sentence onto another sentence. Now that's kind of what the ruling stated, is that is not a requirement. And what's going to happen is youthful offenders might be able to get paroled faster than they would, but they would still have to get parole. They don't skip that parole period or the parole, hearing or anything like that. But they could definitely they do see the parole board sooner than you would if you were not a youthful offender.
Folks, now this is the time where I came up with the segment idea, either Stephanie's selection or Murphy's Law. But Stephanie, if you don't mind, I want to choose for you. We had discussed the Mark Perkins and that was a bail hearing. He's charged first-degree murder in the murder of Charlotte Lester. And you kind of walked us through saying, well, it's a chance for his defense attorney, John Calcagni, to kind of get a view of what the prosecution, kind of what their case is, and also lock in some of their witnesses on statements. And I wanted to revisit that because sure enough, you were right. When in fact they concluded that, he basically didn't put up any strong defense to try to push for bail, and if anything, just accepted that it wouldn't be bail. So I'm guessing you're not surprised that that's the avenue he went down.
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised. In a case like this that's been going on, the investigation for some time, on the witnesses that were presented at the bail hearing and everything like that, I think it's a great opportunity for the defense attorney to, see what the witnesses are saying and also compare it to previous statements, because some of these statements happened over a period of years, of course. So comparing a witness's statement now to what they remember, at a different time, all those opportunities that you have to speak to a witness, to cross-examine a witness, to get a statement from the witness, I think that is so important. And what I kind of say to my clients is a lot of times you want to win the whole war. You don't want to just win the battle. So the bail hearing's one step in the process, and you use it for, at the end of the case, you want to try to get the result that you're looking for. And a bail hearing is definitely a good mechanism as a discovery tool to see what the state is presenting. And it's definitely a great way for a defense attorney to take a look at the case, evaluate the case, look at its strengths and weaknesses.
Is this also a situation where, in this particular case, Attorney Calcagni could look at it and maybe a statement from a witness opens the door that maybe they hadn't thought of, or at the very least he could realign what his strategy might be?
Absolutely. Sometimes witnesses say something that maybe they didn't say a couple of years ago, or they remember something different. And then that could lead you to go, with an investigator or go down a different sort of investigation in terms of an alibi, in terms of somebody else, in terms of a motive. All these different things that you look at when you look at the whole picture when you're preparing, especially a very serious charge. You have to look at the whole picture and see anything that you can bring in order to help your client or to mitigate for your client or to try to get the charges reduced. So not only do you want to win the case, but you also want to make sure that you're helping your client throughout every step of the way.
One final question, Stephanie. I did get feedback from someone on Instagram actually, and her question was, number one, when they contact you, your office, is it a free consultation, and what should they expect the first time they're going to meet with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when they call, a new client would get connected to one of our attorneys, myself, any of the other attorneys, and we would talk with you on the phone. We would make sure that, first of all, we don't have a conflict with the case, meaning with family court, that we've spoken to a spouse or an ex-spouse. In a criminal case, that we haven't represented a co-defendant. After that, we typically have a conversation over the phone just to kind of make sure that we understand what the legal issue is. And then we'll set up a time for them to come in. And yes, all those things are free consultation. And it's just a great time to see if we're a good fit for each other and how we can help and kind of the next steps in the process.
Folks, again, it's Marin, Barrett, and Murphy. She is Stephanie Murphy. Stephanie, excellent job as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
All right, folks, there it is. And again, I have heard a lot from various people that, hey, listen, all different types of people sometimes can certainly use some good, solid legal, someone in their corner. Remember, Marin, Barrett, and Murphy, criminal defense attorneys, call them 401-228-8271. You can look for them on Facebook and on Instagram. Folks, right now at 1:19 on this Thursday. Now, I anticipate we're going to have some pretty good footage coming later this afternoon. That will be available on our website, which is depetro.com, brought to you by the Cowesett Inn. But there's something very significant happening on this Thursday right now at 1:20. And as I think some of you are starting to realize, many of the things that we cover don't always necessarily get covered by the rest of the media. And that could be a variety of different things. And it could be something that maybe that I pick up on, or maybe just have a different take on it. So as far as the Washington Bridge, and this is interesting to me right now, because now this afternoon, you're going to have Rhode Island DOT Director Peter Alviti. He's going to be testifying, but not under oath, up at the State House regarding the bridge. Now, they're not shy about putting him out there. But I just think, and I want to thank the rep from Cranston we had on, that I don't understand why, if you're going to go through the entire oversight committee hearing that they're about to have at the Rhode Island State House, quite frankly, I don't understand why you wouldn't put someone under oath. Otherwise, what's the point of this whole thing? And just I'm not convinced. You see it on the Hill. You see the various, if you watch a lot of the hearings, whether it's C-SPAN or anything else, I mean, they're put under oath. You want to be dealing with people when they're under oath on the record. Otherwise, there's little to no penalty. But something very significant is happening. And, I'm not trying to say I told you so, but I have been consistent about this. And it's the money for the Washington Bridge. And you have to kind of, to me, dissect exactly what Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee and how he is phrasing things. You need to realize, or people should realize, I think, that many times when he is going to answer something with the press, he's giving an answer that they have kind of rehearsed as a talking point. So he and his staff meet, and he's going to face the media, and they come out with a line that he is going to use. And this is one of those lines where Governor McKee was at an event, Math Matters. I don't understand why that's considered like a new concept. I mean, math has always mattered. They just haven't gained any ground on it. But the line that I'm talking about is Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee saying, "My expectation is that the funding will come our way in time for us to apply to those building the new bridge." Let's break that down for a moment. He was asked in the latest court filing in funding freeze, Rhode Island officials still don't know if they're getting the $200 million for the failed Washington Bridge. So when the governor's asked about that, and I want you to just, look at the wording he's using. My expectation is that the funding will come in time. What is that supposed to mean? You know what that means? That means they don't know if they're going to get the money. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you're looking what's going on nationwide with Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, folks, the Washington Bridge, the amount of money that they have blown through, this could end up being a poster child for inefficiency, the amount of money that has been wasted around the bridge. I'm telling you right now, you have Elon Musk fighting with Rhode Island U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. You have Elon Musk going after this Judge McConnell. You have Congressman Gabe Amo and Congressman Seth Magaziner punching at the Trump administration at every opportunity. So my question, you have Senator Reid going after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. It is like a full attack from the Rhode Island delegation punching at the Trump administration. Folks, I've yet to see any evidence that anyone representing the state in elected office, either statewide, I'm not talking about the State House, statewide or in D.C., our Washington delegation, I haven't seen one example of anyone. Now, again, they're in office. They're supposed to be representing you. They're supposed to be representing me. I can't point to one example where someone connected with the state in any way has shown any inclination to try to work with the administration. It's actually the opposite. It is, we're going to fight them at every turn and pounding and trying to take shots at them. Therefore, you still have an FBI investigation into the Washington Bridge. Now, as I was communicating with someone earlier, folks, the feds don't move fast. They generally work around the statute of limitations. If you remember, the McKee administration dragged their feet in getting them all the documents. First, they have to go through all the documents. Second, they have to start to interview some of the people with the documents. Third, we don't know, they could convene a federal grand jury. Now, Governor McKee refused to sit with the Attorney General on the ILO contract. I would imagine he may ask lobbyist Bill Murphy again, should I not comply with the FBI wants to talk to me about the Washington Bridge? So my point is, this is not a quick investigation. First, plus you're going to have turnover right now potentially within the FBI. You have a lot of documents to go through. Someone has to process that. They then have to interview a number of the people connected with it. My point is, this investigation, I'm not exaggerating, could go on for 5 years. What I can't believe is Governor McKee still thinks he's running for re-election. They're not going to just give them the money for the bridge. And until they go through a lot of the waste and the fraud, I'm not convinced they should be giving them the money for the bridge. Folks, as you know, or I've talked about, now one person has been demoted at DOT. Now one person has been suspended at Rhode Island DOT. Now one person has been terminated at Rhode Island DOT. They keep getting raises. Would you give that crowd raises? Who would give them more money? Not one person has been held accountable. That bridge passed inspection the July before they shut it in December. And they still want you to believe that it was almost like an act of God, that nothing could have prevented it. And they're clearly covering for someone. But here's the thing, Governor McKee, they're not going to just, does Elon Musk and President Trump, do they strike you that they're about to hand over that amount of money? And let alone the price will just keep gouging. There's so much fraud and waste. Look at the Pawtucket Stadium, that useless minor league soccer stadium. That it's the worst, it's the most expensive minor league soccer stadium in the country. And the borrowing of that is just absurd. The McKee administration, folks, they already have a running track record that they are not about getting the best deal for taxpayers. There's so much fraud and waste involved with the administration. This portion of our program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Folks, call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, heating and cooling. If you use propane, you can depend on Propane Plus. Check out their website, propaneplus.com. Residential or commercial, you just type in your zip code. It's Propane Plus, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. Well, folks, good afternoon. Now, I also want to mention more snow storms are going to hit this weekend. I want to remind you, let me do it right now. Watson, that's right, Watson Materials. They have bulk salt and bulk ice melt available. Watson Materials. You can call them at 401-885-0600. Watson Materials. Now, they are the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. But right now, with more storms headed our way, call them 401-885-0600. I shared their Facebook page. They have bulk salt and bulk ice melt available. Watson Materials. Now, folks, there's another development going on right now. This is interesting. Governor McKee, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee. So he is planning on announcing his reelection coming up on March 3rd. And tonight, he's going to participate in a Facebook Live with the First Lady, Sue McKee, about litter. As if right now, with all the snow, as if anyone can even see any litter. Why would he be doing that? He's also stepped up his schedule. He's trying to show a busy schedule. Folks, the state is imploding right now. And I don't know how it's going to go. I'd be very curious. Maybe I'll send the link that you could watch it. A lot of times you can't control the comments. I think they think the fact that the First Lady's going to be there, that people are going to back down a little bit. I don't think that's going to happen. So this business that he is in fact going to he's trying to ramp up his re-election campaign. He's trying to fill his schedule and everything else. But I want to just check. There's another controversy right now between Governor McKee, who's urging all 39 cities in town to expand housing supply, which I don't even think they're going to need, because I think of the number of people. Folks, the number of people that are going to either self-deport or be deported. We're not going to have a housing shortage in Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls. And I don't mean tomorrow. I mean, over the next, see where this is a year from now, 2 years from now. People are going to just start saying, I can't live like this. Here's what I'm looking at. So Attorney General Peter Nerona is again locked in a budget disagreement with Governor McKee. He's asking for money to hire 13 new staffers, and Governor McKee's budget is denying it. So, this this type of thing is going to go back and forth between the two of them. It's bad blood, but the look at it. It's hard to find an area right now. I don't know what the governor, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, we don't the economy where they're trying to say, well, there's a green economy and there's all these jobs. It's all dependent on federal funding. Folks, what you're seeing take place right now that they are freaking out over, they are both nationally and locally, is what Elon Musk is essentially doing with President Trump is an audit to see where all the spending is going. And for them to say that over 1 trillion in Social Security benefits is going overseas, fraud, waste, as Elon Musk said, you have Congressman Gabe Amo and Congressman Seth Magaziner saying they are not to touch Social Security. Well, according to our Social Security, there are Americans that live overseas that are receiving Social Security, and they're 150 years old. Now, if that's not a red flag of fraud, so how is this happening? Well, whoever's receiving the money are carrying on this charade that the people are still alive. There's no one alive right now, let alone an American overseas, who's still alive at 150 years old. That's fraud. That is waste. I'll tell you where Rhode Island is really nervous, folks, is the amount of fraud. And many of you know this, the fraud and waste in EBT cards that go out. A big one, the rest of the media is not talking about this. Medicaid. As I've told you, today, tomorrow, last week, whenever, a young woman enters Women and Infants Hospital. They need a translator because she doesn't speak English. She has her family with her. She happens to be 8 months pregnant. Through the translator, she announces she's just arrived in Rhode Island and plans to give birth at Women and Infants. She is immediately put on Medicaid. We're paying for that. You're paying for that. I'm paying for it. Other states are more stringent. Other states would say, listen, we can't help you. You're not a citizen. You're not. In Rhode Island, boom, she's put on Medicaid. Her and the child will receive it. Hey, listen, I understand a pregnant mother and the care that you want for a newborn infant. But the fact of the matter is it's a racket. They're doing this purposely. And that's where the citizenship birth comes in. They're purposely then giving birth in Rhode Island. They claim, hey, that kid is an American citizen. As Sabina Matos would say, he's a Rhode Island citizen. And according to them, the whole family now gets to stay. And they all get Medicaid for free. And they all get EBT cards. And they all get WIC. And they're entitled to everything else. Folks, I'm so glad that if you missed it, Dan McGowan on the radio portion, I'm so glad that he shared my sentiment, which I'm going to touch on in just a moment, about the whole Foxy Village thing, folks. But this portion of the program is brought to you by Kids Club. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, Kids Club on the Pike is perfect for a birthday party venue, any gathering. If you're going to have a youth team, or you're going to have a birthday party for your child or grandchild, it doesn't mean you have to have them over to your house. And this time of year, you don't want to risk outside. Kids Club on the Pike, available for private rental, sometimes the entire facility, or maybe you just need a couple rooms. Birthday parties, other events, but they also offer before and after school care, transportation, before and after care for school-age children ages 5 through 12, preschool, half and full day programs, preschool ages 3 to 5. Folks, Kids Club on the Pike, right on Plainfield Pike, right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. You can call them 401-443-5336 or look for them on Facebook, Kids Club on the Pike. I'm so glad that Dan McGowan kind of spoke up, because I didn't get the whole thing. They announce it's the opening of Foxy Village, and they had a band. And as he said, they were handing out flowers and cheering and saluting. And what are they cheering and saluting? That it cost the taxpayer, us, the people of Rhode Island, $5 million to put adults living in sheds in the parking lot behind the Foxy Lady. What are they celebrating? Isn't this glorious? And a marching band and everyone, oh, it's so fantastic. And it's adults living in sheds that we had to pay for on state land. That's nothing to celebrate. That is that. And by the way, we haven't had anything like this in the past. You didn't have anything like that. See, and I mentioned last night on Road Patrol, there was a woman said, that's ridiculous. The state should buy St. Joseph's Hospital and buy Memorial Hospital in Pawtucket, rehab it, and then have all the homeless live there. Oh, so you want to have free housing? That's not, we offer low-income housing. There's low-income housing. I want to understand this. So that these people, and I'll find her comment and repost it. No, we're not doing that. What? Wrong. The state should buy St. Joseph's Hospital and spend all this money to rehab it? For who? For people who choose not to work? Folks, that's not what the American system is. I'll say one thing about, there are many people that come into the country illegally. They want to work. A lot of them do work. They work harder than that crowd. I don't understand. I remember years ago, I don't know how, someone said, I have an idea for the Superman building. The state should buy it and put all the homeless people inside that. Folks, who's going to pay for that? I'm not paying for that. You shouldn't have to pay for that. This is the United States of America. No, everybody pulls their own weight. We're the most generous nation on earth. All the vouchers, EBT cards, low-income housing. So many of these people are on Medicaid. Now we have to give them free housing? You want to purchase a building? Wrong. St. Joseph's Hospital, I don't know what they're going to do with it. We drive by it all the time on Road Patrol. It's right there on Broad Street. I think Joe Paolino owns it, and he's going to donate it to something. They should have put Crossroads in there to get them right at the, away from the crux of downtown. Memorial Hospital in Pawtucket, that should be offered to a developer. Someone could turn that into apartments, or I don't know, a company, a building. There's nothing. Why are you celebrating that adults are going to be living in sheds? Oh, we have a marching band, and that is nothing to celebrate. That is a failure of society. The people that think that, and I'm going to find that woman's comment. This isn't Cuba. That's the old Soviet Union. Folks, communism doesn't work. We defeated communism. What these people are talking about, that's the Green New Deal. That's communism. In the Green New Deal, it was stipends for those who, quote, choose not to work, which means you and I work, and then we have to pay for those who choose not to work. It's wrong. That's not what the system is. They shouldn't be celebrating that a group of adults, these aren't children, and these aren't families, adults are going to live in sheds with a marching band, and they're celebrating. That is a failure. That is a failure. Those individuals should be guided into some form of real housing, some form of an occupation, some form of employment. You cannot have, by the way, the woman that said that, I want to be very clear. These people are welcome to start their own private fund or private charity. If there are private companies that want to raise money for this and sponsor it, maybe it's a company that says, if you work for us, will also give you housing. A lot of places offer that in the summertime. Cape Cod, you go to work on Cape Cod, there are restaurants, hotels, they offer lodging. Block Island, they used to do that for some of the workers. So, in order to try to get them housing, but they're celebrating that is so sad. These are English, for the most part, English speaking individuals that they have to cater to in this manner. Folks, I find it just atrocious and nothing to celebrate. I want to tell you about where we stand right now. Something really significant happened with Attorney General Pam Bondi. And this is something that is not being covered enough. But folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Remember, they'll seal coat driveways and parking lots, crack filling, pothole repairs, and line stripping or striping. Corey sent me a thing on that. Line striping, I believe. They can make your payment look like new. Now, here's why this is significant. It's line striping, not stripping. It is line striping. Thank you, Corey. Potholes, cracks keep the lines bright. They make sure that the parking lots are ADA compliance with city and town regulations. They'll make sure you have the proper amount of handicap spaces, proper size, placed properly on the parking lot in order to avoid fines from your city and town. And folks, they're going to start doing more of that. Contact Quality Asphalt Seal Coating today. 401 283 9815. Seal coat driveways and parking lots, crack filling, pothole repairs, line striping. Make your payment look like new, fixing potholes and cracks. They also do sports courts resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball. They'll also epoxy garages and patios. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey, 401 283 9815. I share their Facebook page. And remember, that is important for line striping. Very important. You don't want to get fined. Watch, that'll be the new line they'll go down instead of all these the money grab of the school zones with the cameras. Give them a call today, 401 283 9815. Something very significant happened with the new Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And that is that they are going to go after New York, the governor of New York. And also, this is important, and I don't know why it's not being mentioned more. I'm going to do a story on it, post on it later on depetro.com. They're going to go after the head of the DMV in New York and hold them accountable for their actions with illegals. Folks, what do you think they're going to do with Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, who handed out the driving privileges? What do you think they're going to do with old man Bud Craddock, who they try to, and they'll go on WMcKeRO. Oh, we don't know how many driving privileges we've handed out. Is there anyone actually believes that? That's McKee and Craddock. I'll say this about Bud Craddock. He's going along with what he's being told to say. I am predicting he's not going to be in that job much longer. He's going to want to get out before they're going to come after him. They're repeating this story. Oh, we don't know how many people we're giving out the driving privileges. Does that make sense to anyone? I like they said, we purposely don't want to know, as if anyone believes that. As if in their computer system, they don't know exactly how many people have been provided these driving privilege cards. They're basically driver's licenses, where they live, who they are, with their photo. Oh, we purposely don't. Folks, that's not believable. The state is really under attack right now. Now, as I posted there was ICE was active again yesterday in Providence. Folks, the ICE activity is going to increase, not decrease. Right now, and I'm serious about this, the Rhode Island elected officials, as I like to say, because they're not leaders. They are really trying to poke President Trump and Elon Musk in the eye. And they are in no position to be fighting with these people. They're trying to fight with them. And what? I'm not with them. I don't support that. I don't support, and I want to be very clear. I know some people are saying, I want to contact Elon Musk. Listen, you're never going to reach him. Do you have any idea how many emails he's getting? You want to contact the locals. If you want to contact anyone, contact either Governor McKee or contact Seth Magaziner, Congressman, or Congressman Gabe Amo. Or you can contact Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Jack Reed and so forth. But it's really the Congressman and Senator Whitehouse. They're the ones really drawing the lines in the sand. I think it's a very dangerous situation. Boston right now, they're going to make an example out of Boston. Boston and Massachusetts, they purposely don't honor these ICE detainers. And I don't understand it. It's hard to comprehend why they would want convicted child molesters and murderers out in their community. But they do. And that is the progressive mindset. I believe, and you know something else, you don't hear anyone talking about cutting the spending at the State House. Folks, the amount of state jobs, the amount of spending, the waste that goes on, it's coming to an end. They're not going to be given the money. They shouldn't be given the money. The amount of fraud that's involved, the rigged bids, building new police departments and new schools is not economic development. The only ones that benefit are the laborers because they're no bid contracts and they can run up the price on it. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Modern Mechanical. Now remember, if you're having a problem, and we're not out of the woods yet with winter, boiler repair and maintenance. Are you having a problem with your boiler on this Thursday? Contact Modern Mechanical. Furnace repair and maintenance. Heater repair and maintenance. Call them. They're right on Jefferson Boulevard. Richard and his crew will come out. 401-441-5442. 401-441-5442. They're another one. I share their Facebook page, Modern Mechanical. This is not the time of year to have a problem with your boiler or furnace or any heater. Modern Mechanical, 401-441-5442. I am telling you right now, I think this is whimsical that Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, that he actually thinks he's going to run for re-election. I don't believe. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. He's still expected to announce March 3rd. And he believes that he can beat Helena Foulkes in a Democrat primary. Folks, I don't think right now we're seeing anyone mentioned that is prepared for this moment where we are right now. I don't think, I mean, Helena Foulkes is pretty progressive. She is an outsider, but who wants these failed Democrat policies? I think many of you, like me, want to see the type of federal spending they're cutting in D.C. that Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency is cutting. I think you're like me. I want to see it here. We have incredible wasteful spending. We don't need, and by the way, they're fooling themselves. They're not going to get the money. They're not going to give them the money. It's not only just no money for the bridge. Do you understand this? Let me just be very clear about something. The mayor of East Providence is saying DEI is still the most important thing. They're living in 2024. They're in denial right now. You know, I don't see any elected official that fully comprehends what is happening right now. President Trump and Elon Musk, folks, they dismantled the mainstream media. All of this wasteful spending, it's coming to an end. As I have told you, Rhode Island has a $14 billion budget. It is ludicrous. They're spending our money that they don't have the right to spend. They're wasteful on our spending. There are some communities that are still, Warwick still thinks they're going to build 2 high schools at a cost of $400 million. No bid, given out to organized labor. Ludicrous. Public schools are in the decline. Public schools are failing. Less people are sending their children. It's not about a new school. It's about throwing money to organized labor. That's all it is. Right now, in Ashley Kalis, people are still disappointed about that. Ashley Kalis defending that Enrique Sanchez. Enrique Sanchez introduced legislation. He wants a $23 minimum wage in Rhode Island. It's moronic. You can't have a conversation with someone like that. Now he's saying, oh, I wasn't drinking. I mean, listen, he's a fraud. His interview with Crandall, he was a mess. Shaking back and forth. As I said, it looked like he had ants in his pants. Yeah, I'm on medication. Takes Adderall. Probably illegally. $23 minimum wage. What? So he's saying, I know we're ranked 50th for business-friendly states. We want to create a new category. We're going to be the most unfriendly place on the planet. It's not enough for someone like Rep. Sanchez. Maybe the guy does have a drinking problem. It's not enough for the state to be dead last. Folks, they don't get it. They don't understand. In the Rhode Island Democrat Party, they're lost. They're absolutely lost. And as I was saying, right now, I can't find one normal guy. Right now, if you're in a group of people and you announce, I'm a Democrat, especially if you're a guy, it's like a punchline. Everyone would kind of laugh. It's, who are the high-profile Democrats? Mayor Pete? McGreed? Sheldon? Magaziner? Notice, Governor McKee, keep in mind, so he finally broke, and he ended he's been boycotting the Boston Globe for 2.5 years. And he finally did an interview. But of course he does it with the female reporter they have. He's only comfortable around a female reporter. He'll only go on Channel 12 with Kim Kalunian. He gravitates towards guys that are a little light in the loafers, so to speak. A little Mayor Pete-ish. I mean, look at who's he pals with? Him and Pork Boy. I mean, they're definitely McKee, Democrats in general. They're very uncomfortable around normal guys. They just are. I can't even use the language we normally use to describe these guys with. Come on, Magaziner, Mayor Pete, Dan McKee, Pork Boy, who said, hey, nothing more fun than a bunch of naked guys in a locker room. They're just the Democrat Party right now. Look on the State House. They're all like a little... I'll say this. They're certainly not comfortable around a President Trump, Tom Homan, and Pete Hegseth. Enough said. Definitely not. I'm a Democrat. Oh, my God. Any male. There's no normal guy left anymore that says I'm a Democrat. I mean, it is. It's like a punchline. Folks, it's Kid Rock is a Trump supporter, right? The guys on Yellowstone are Trump supporters. Enough said. Tom Homan is a Trump supporter. Sheriff Tom Hodgson in Mass is a Trump supporter. McGreed, he's parading around with Pork Boy and Matos. Matos, we're going to take every gun out of Rhode Island. Yeah, good luck with that. Folks, this portion of our program, I want to remind you about Arch Design Builders. Maybe it is time. Maybe you've been thinking for your home or business. Maybe it is time for a new kitchen or a new bathroom or a basement or a deck or a special project. Arch Design Builders. It all starts with a conversation. It all starts with a free consultation conversation. Call them 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders. Now, I share their Facebook page. You're going to notice the arch difference. When you're dealing with Ed and Roxanne, you're suddenly, now it will make sense. Suddenly the light will go on. Now you'll say, now I see why they have 5-star reviews. Call them, set up that, hey, meet with them, dream with them, show them this is what we're thinking. 401-218-9707. It's going to be one of your first of many meetings with Arch Design Builders. Whatever the project is, maybe it is a new kitchen, maybe it's a new bathroom, maybe it's a remodel on your home or business. Arch Design Builders. Well, folks, good afternoon. We are going through a sea change right now. And I think the state right now, I believe the state, there's a real opening here for a Republican to really step up. And we're going to continue to highlight many of them, draw attention to those that I would argue are on the right side of things. But right now, I don't know. The future of the state is so up in the air. Folks, I can't stress enough. To me, and again, we will be doing Road Patrol Live later. And then also, thank God some of this rain got rid of some of the snow. And also, Governor McGreed is doing a Facebook Live with the First Lady to talk about littering, as if anyone can see anything with all the snow. But there is a real opening for the right type of candidate. I think it's ripe right now. Listen, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone watching, we're going to be back later on for a little Road Patrol Live. Enjoy this Thursday.